Welcome to NFL Live. So much to get to. And 10 teams back in their buildings. The quarterback questions continue in Cleveland. We're going to hear from their new head coach, Todd Monken, today. Plus, how about an all-quarterback mock draft? Yep, you got it. Ben Solak stopping by to reveal where he has all of the QB prospects landing in this year's draft. And the latest on the giant issue developing in New York. Defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence wants a trade. Is that a good idea for the G-Men? And, well, who should be on the phone calling New York? Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah Storm alongside Jeremy Fowler. Booger McFarland's going to be with us. The great Louis Riddick is here with all of his knowledge. And off-season programs are underway for teams with new head coaches. So we're going to begin the program with some news out of Houston. Jeremy, what's happening?
Yes, the latest from our Field Yates. Two Texan stars, pass rusher Will Anderson, quarterback C.J. Stroud, are getting their fifth-year options picked up. That means they're under contract for 2026 and 2027. The Texans want to keep their core intact. They made 2 picks 3 years ago and have these 2 players in the fold. Expect some more money to be spent, possibly on Will Anderson, on a big contract in the future.
Well, because also this offseason, Jeremy, as you know, the Texans locked down Danielle Hunter on a 1-year extension. They traded for Lions running back David Montgomery. They reworked the offensive line again. Houston holds the 28th pick in the draft, coming off 3 straight divisional round losses under DeMeco Ryans. And Louis, we have talked about it ad nauseum, but just to remind people, C.J. Stroud, 5 fumbles against the Steelers, 4 first-half picks against the Patriots. It was just an absolute disaster. How do they move beyond their playoff woes?
Yeah, I think a lot of this obviously starts with CJ himself. Obviously, ball security, making good decisions, throwing the football with accuracy. All those kind of things are the kind of things that CJ is going to have to go back to the drawing board and really get into the film room and figure out why it was maybe that he took some chances with the football that he didn't need to. What does he have to do as far as making sure that the ball's coming out on time, that he's protecting the ball better in the pocket, and then, as a team, and as a front office, they got to make sure that this offensive line is straight. Look, they were 32nd in the NFL in run block win rate. That's just not, you just can't win that way. You cannot win with your offensive line being that inept. And they were bottom quarter in the league in pass block win rate. So you know that pass rush being under pressure is something that is going to unsettle even the best of quarterbacks. So I think that's first and foremost. On the defensive side, I think they need to continue to make a strong unit even stronger. They're going to need some depth on the inside. They're fine on the outside, obviously, with Danielle and Will. And between CJ and Will together, they absolutely set the table for this franchise and turned things around back in 2003 when they were drafted number 2 and number 3. And it's great that they're exercising their fifth-year options. These guys are foundational players. But I think in this case of CJ, he has to go back to the drawing board and make sure that protecting the football is priority number 1 and not to repeat the mistakes that he did in 2025.
Man, and Booger, you're joining us just in time for this discussion. Really, when you talk about Houston's offensive line issues, these are going back not to last season, but also this season before. They tried to retool it last season. What are you seeing from these Texans that they need to get over this playoff hump?
Well, when you talk about retooling, I mean, I don't know if they did a good enough job when you trade away Larry Tunsil, one of the best left tackles in football as far as protecting the passer. This is a huge season coming up for the Houston Texans. I agree with Louis on Will Anderson. I think he's a foundational piece. I think him and Danielle Hunter make one of the more formidable defensive end combinations in football. But the fact that you pick up the 5th-year option on your quarterback and you don't extend him, which, by the way, is not cost intuitive for the team, lets you know that they're not necessarily sold on C.J. Stroud. Because if they were sold on him, you go ahead and extend him now and you go ahead and get this deal done. I think the last 2 years of C.J. Stroud, if we really want to be honest, guys, he's regressed. They have to see him play more consistent football. Rookie year was absolutely outstanding, but I need to see more like the rookie year and less like the last 2 years. If you can do that, then this team starts to take the steps that we thought they could take last year, which is when you get into the playoffs, they had the best defense in football.
Right.
The best defense in football, and they didn't get the job done because the quarterback threw the football to the other team so many times. So I expect them to extend Will Anderson. They're going to beef up the offensive line so they can really evaluate C.J. Stroud because they have to decide. Is he the true franchise quarterback, or do they need to move on?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, to that effect, you just heard what the guys said.
Yeah.
Are we looking at an extension for Anderson before CJ, or what's the word there?
Yeah, I'm told that Will Anderson Jr. is a major priority for the Houston Texans. I do expect Houston to pay him at some point this offseason. He's now eligible for a new deal. He's a premier player at a premier position for a premier defense. Now, the question becomes, is this a contract with a 5 in front of it on a per-year average? Because the market with Micah Parsons and those guys is well above $45 million a year. Can he get there? I'm not sure that he can get there, but it's going to be a really strong number. So I suspect they take care of Anderson. Certainly, they still believe in C.J. Stroud. They can get something done, but this is where a compromise would probably have to happen because Houston's trying to keep a lot of core guys together who are very costly, and we know quarterback contracts are crazy. So I suspect Houston will entertain a deal for CJ eventually, but they're going to have to find a sweet spot.
Yeah, kind of a prove it kind of year for CJ Stroud, to say the very least. All right, guys, moving on to somebody else who really wants some money. Giants star defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence not participating in the team's offseason program. He wants a new deal. Signed a $90 million contract extension in 2023 as 2 years left on the deal. So we have some nice drama right off the bat for new Giants head coach John Harbaugh, who was asked about it yesterday.
Speaking for the Giants, we want Dexter here, and I believe Dexter wants to be here. You know, that's a good formula, but there's business involved. It's a business proposition. We know it's pro football, and these things happen every year, pretty much on every team. So, not surprised by it. Saw it coming a few weeks back, probably, and good conversations with Dexter's agent, Joel Siegel, and understood what they were thinking. And I talked to Dexter early a couple times when I first got hired. First few weeks, we had great conversations. But once it moved into this type of conversation, it got to be about business, and we knew it was going to be an issue. Joel's preference was that we talked through him.
This is up to Joe Shane to get this done. I know his contract average is about 11th among interior defenders, right? So he has a point. What's the latest?
Well, the latest is Dexter Lawrence is not happy. John Harbaugh is downplaying things a little bit there. That's his job, to kind of quell the noise. But Dexter Lawrence, I'm told, has been trying to get a new contract for almost 2 years now. He's averaging on the last 2 years of his deal about $20 million per year. That's well below some of these top guys, even his younger players that are inferior to him. He feels like at 28 years old, he is still one of the very best. And so he wants this address, or he wants to be traded. The team has accepted the trade request, but they haven't shopped him. They don't want to have to move him, as you heard from John Harbaugh there. They'd like to try to find some sort of compromise. But there's going to be a robust market here. Teams are calling. I've talked to several executives of teams who say, heck yes, you want to get involved with Dexter Lawrence because it's a very weak defensive tackle class in the draft.
Yes.
There might not be a first-round D tackle in Thursday's draft in a couple weeks. So that becomes a premium position for Lawrence for other teams trying to get one. It would require at least a first-round pick to even entertain it.
Big drop-off last year for him, only half a sack.
Yeah.
But can the Giants afford to lose him, Lewis?
No, he has a lot of leverage here simply because they're thin on the interior. They've got some dudes who can rush on the outside now. They've got some guys who can get after it. But look, number one, they were pretty bad against the run and up the middle last year. And without Dexter, what is your next best alternative? How are they going to address it? By the time it would come around for them to pick again, after their first pick overall is gone, the fifth pick overall, how are they going to address this? How are they going to get anybody that is comparable to him? What is the next best alternative, like I said? And I think Dexter knows that. He also knows that he's right in the sweet spot, right in the prime of his career at 28 years old. He'll be 29 when the season starts. And as Jeremy said, he probably wants to be up there around $30 million per year. And this is a guy who was really, I think he was the second most frequently double-teamed interior pass rusher this year amongst all defensive tackles. So, look, he's helping everyone else out along that defensive line just by his mere presence in the season that he had in 2024. That's why people paid so much attention to him in 2025. He knows a lot of things are in his favor right now. I'd hold out, too, if I were him.
Lewis, I completely agree with a lot of what you said. Here's where I would push back, and I would even ask you this as somebody who's been in the front office. Are you willing to give a guy that doesn't touch the quarterback, as much as he should? He had a half a sack last year. Are you willing to pay that guy $30 million? I understand he's the best nose tackle in football. He pressures the quarterback. He deserves to be more than the 11th paid defensive tackle. But I would even ask you, how far are you willing to go? Because you can't pay him like Chris Jones. You can't pay him like Aaron Donald was. So where are you willing to go to a guy that doesn't sack the quarterback?
Look, I think you're going to have to get up there in the high 20s now. That's just the reality of the situation. Because like I said, what are you going to do? You're going to let him walk? Now, maybe you could recoup some, significant draft capital. But then again, what are the options then as far as what are you going to get in the draft that even comes close to maybe matching his type of production or even his type of influence for the edge rushers? Yeah. And look, you know this better than anybody. You played the position. So I think that's why I'm saying he has some leverage right now. Despite what his sack numbers may have looked like, he still is someone that every interior offensive lineman pays attention to. And obviously, they devote a lot of resources to making sure he doesn't wreck the game by him being double teamed at the rate that he was.
Listen, there's plenty of teams that'll say, please give me your unhappy player and let me make him happy and thrive here in my defense. So you would think there would be a big market for this guy. We are just getting started. ABC's coverage focuses on the prospects' journey to the draft. So Jeremy Fowler has released a really good article on ESPN.com about what NFL execs and scouts are saying about some of this year's most polarizing draft prospects. So Jeremy, take us through a few of these names.
Anna, let's do it. I will start with Ruben Bain, pass rusher out of Miami. Teams I talked to love his explosiveness, the violence he plays with, the bend off the edge, ultra productive. They are worried about the arm length. I know a lot's been made out of that. Less than 31-inch arms. Talking to executives of teams are like, look, if you're going 60 snaps a game on the edge against a tackle, it's going to become an issue eventually. Maybe he can work around it, but that is a concern. He'll still go plenty high, should be among the top 10 to 12 picks, and have a home early in the draft. Mekhi Lemon, receiver out of USC. So if you love route running, if you love yards after catch, he's your guy. Very productive guy who can get open. But teams I've talked to had concerns about his interviews and times. They didn't love the way he explained the USC offense. They also feel like he's a bit slow and a bit too small. Amon-Ra St. Brown, fellow USC mate, would be the perfect comp if he could get there. Maybe that's his ceiling as an NFL player. And then Caden Proctor, left tackle out of Alabama, 3-year starter. This one's fascinating because I talked to multiple teams who said he's easily a top 5 talent in this draft. But is he going to get the most out of his talent? That is a question that has lingered with this player. Played pretty heavy to start the year. He worked his way to around 350 pounds at his pro day where he was awesome. And he was working, his foot looked like he was moving like a tight end at that 350 pound weight.
So his conditioning was a lot better, at least at this point. Yeah.
So the ceiling's ultra high here if you're one of these teams like the Browns at 6 or a team in the top 15 to 17, Detroit, looking for a tackle. He's going to be intriguing.
Very interesting. All right, now we are 15 days away from the draft, as I mentioned. And the Bucs, they hold the 15th pick, which got us to thinking the last time Tampa held the 15th pick way back in 1999.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Anthony McFarland, defensive tackle, LSU.
He's a good football player, and everybody was trying to go up to get him. Look at the hustle of number 94, chasing, never quitting on a play, and driving the ball carrier to the ground. I think you look at the quickness, the explosion, that low center of gravity. 6 foot and a quarter, 299, but long arms. Watch the quickness there.
You've got to say to yourself, wow, there's another Warren Sapp. There's a guy who can get out, get across the field, make plays, and is an athlete. When you see him go out and catch a pass, he's more than just a guy that can just pound the ball in the middle of the football field. He's a nice kind of an athlete, so he's got an edge of athletic ability to him.
Okay, Bug, there's a whole lot of people, by the way, who didn't know your first name was Anthony. I'll just say that. But what do you think when you see that video again all these years later?
Well, a couple of things, and I always say this at the draft, the fact that I get to sit next to Mel and Lewis, and the fact that Mel did my highlights when I got drafted in '99, and now I get to sit next to him, that's one thing. Number two, the fact that Joe Theismann called me an athlete. See, that's what I want to be known as, Hannah. It doesn't matter. You can call me a defensive tackle. Just call me an athlete, because even though I was 6 foot 299, my ankles are thin and my speed is fast, and that was the thing that I was most proud of.
Wow, I love it. You just did your own scouting report there. Who do you think the Bucs should take this year, Lewis, at 15? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a defensive player of some sort. Mel has mocked Kenyon Sadiq there, and obviously he's someone who is just an absolute playmaker, a dynamo. But I think they need some speed off the edge. You can make a case for a guy like Keldrick Falk, Akeem Mesidor, because Todd Bowles like guys that are big and powerful, guys who are two-position players on the defensive line, meaning they can bump inside and rush over the guard on the outside shade as a 3, or move outside as a 9 in a 4 down and rush off the edges. So they need versatile players like that. they also gave up a lot of yards through the air. They had a lot of miscommunications in the back end. They were very suspect at the corner position. So who knows? I mean, does Jermod McCoy fall down to 15? The corner, the fantastic corner from Tennessee? I doubt it. But if he did, I'm sure they would turn, Jason Light, the GM, would turn that card in so fast and make your head spin. So I think on the defensive side is what they need to get some guys, and they need to get some guys who can kind of either put the quarterback on his back or take the ball away in the back end.
And to your point, Lewis, remember they drafted Logan Hall, that versatile guy that could play inside and outside. He's now gone, but that's the type of guy that Jason Light looks for. But I think they need juice, man. Like, they got to get some guys off the edge. They tried it last year with the one-year deal with Hassan Reddick. That did not work. They need somebody that can get after the quarterback. They drafted 2 cornerbacks last year, Morrison and Parrish. So they went down that road last year. Would they come back a second year and draft a top 15 corner? I don't know, especially when this team needs edge rush. If there's a way, if there's somehow, some way, there's a premier edge. I just wonder how Jason Light would feel about Mesidor, because Mesidor is a ready-made pass rusher now that has juice coming off the edge. Or how does he feel about Jermod McCoy? I think if McCoy and Mesidor are sitting there at 15, that would be a tough decision for the Bucs and Jason Light. If it were me, I would lean toward the pass rusher because they took 2 cornerbacks last year. But it'd be hard to pass on a premier corner like McCoy, especially when you go back and look at his 24 tape, because it was outstanding.
Interesting, because you see the 3 mocks. We have 3 different guys there. What are you hearing about the Bucs?
They hit it. I mean, people I've talked to believe that the Bucs will look long and hard at getting an edge rusher. It's no secret that they have scoured the earth in free agency and the draft for potential options. They tried to get Trey Hendrickson. They weren't willing to pay him $30 million a year, but they at least looked into that. They have a massive void on one of those edge positions that they know they need to fill. They typically like to go best player available, but they're looking at some of these names that we're showing there with Mesidor and Falk. I mean,
and
they'll be involved.
Mesidor you had on your list too as a somewhat polarizing player, right?
For sure, because you know, there's some injury concerns and he's turning 25, but very productive, would fit the profile of what the Bucs look for. And then Kenyon Sadiq, like, there's some buzz that they're at least intrigued by that option if they want to get crazy and get the offense more exotic. What is true, though, is they cannot get Booger McFarland in this draft.
They
cannot replicate that player.
You know why?
It's not going to happen.
You know why? Because they broke the mold. They
right.
Absolutely. He is the one and only Anthony Booger McFarland. And we have to say goodbye to the one and only Louis Riddick. Thanks for being with us today. We'll talk to you soon, Louis. We know you got things to do, people to see,
Thanks.
Places to go. You know. Bye. All right. Still to come. Ty Simpson has been linked to teams across the draft, but somebody here tells us why one team trading up for him actually makes the most sense. Of the more than 25,000 players in NFL history, only 240 have actually crossed the goal line on the sport's biggest stage. And over the course of this year, the year of the Super Bowl at ESPN, we're telling the stories of these players and the moment they achieved immortality by scoring a Super Bowl touchdown. This week, Hall of Famer Derek Brooks shares his story.
My name is Derek Brooks. I played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl 37, a spectacular scene here in San Diego. Bucs with the #1 defense in the NFL, Raiders #1 offense.
Coach Gruden first got here, he very openly challenged the defense. It was along the lines of, hey, this defense is so great, or you guys think you're so good, and all these Pro Bowls and these All-Pros. How about do something historic? Score touchdowns.
And the Tampa Bay defense has scored.
It is Brooks. 2 weeks in a row. An interception for a touchdown.
What a gutsy play.
We're very grateful. As I think back to that drive that they were going in to get them within a score on 3rd down.
Nebraska's at 5 touchdown.
3rd down and long, 3rd down, 18.
As I think back to that drive that they were going in to get them within a score on 3rd down play, as I drop back in my zone, I knew before the play, I looked across and saw the formation, and Rich Gannon did not give me any eye contact. So as he's dropping back, I'm saying in my mind, he don't see me.
Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up the middle. At the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 29, 20.
As I'm running down the sideline, I'm just simply telling myself, don't fall, don't trip, don't fall, don't fall.
Touchdown Tampa Bay, Derek Brooks.
Go! Yeah! Yes! Yeah!
Derek Brooks is having a record-breaking season, and he closes the door on the Raiders with that dagger with 1:18 to go.
Man, you're the champion, man. You are the stallion of the world.
Just looking at Coach, realizing how he challenged us to do things to be historic. And to say that I was able to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl and we won it, man, that's icing on the cake.
Bug, I know you enjoyed that, playing alongside Derek Brooks in that incredible Super Bowl season. Can you share a memory with us? Anything else about him?
Yeah, Hannah, here's the cool thing about that Super Bowl. Like the Bucs defense, before I got there in '99, this team had been dominant on defense. Had 4 Hall of Famers, Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, John Lynch. But they didn't have anything to show for it. And so Tony Dungy got fired. In comes John Gruden. So the only thing I thought of in that moment was those 4 guys who've been great players, now the world gets an opportunity to see them, and they get a chance to win their Super Bowl. I was so happy for them. And that was the thing that I tell Brooks even to this day. And we talk about it now because Derek and I are still great friends. And when you know it, Hannah, 4 years later, I get an opportunity to win another Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yes.
And this time he called me and said he was so happy for me that I got a chance to do it kind of in a starring role. So it's a cool memory. The fact that only 240 people have scored a touchdown in Super Bowls, I didn't know that. And the fact that one of my great friends in the world is one of them. I smile every time I see that touchdown.
That is so cool. And my favorite part is when he said, hey, I was just thinking, don't drop the football. Right? That was it. All right, Bug. We got more to talk about here. Ben Solak released a new type of mock draft on ESPN.com this morning. It's an all-quarterback mock. Kind of fun. He has the Cardinals trading back into round 1 for Ty Simpson. And Ben is here on NFL Live. So let's dive into a couple of these picks and start right there. That Cardinals trade for Ty a little bit more.
Yeah, Simpson, I feel like he's a really good fit for what you expect from a Michael LaFleur offense, right? It's going to be Rams-inspired, but it's also going to be 49ers-inspired. LaFleur spent a lot of time there under Kyle Shanahan, and Simpson gets Brock Purdy comps for the accuracy, for the ability to throw on the move, for the toughness, the wiliness, the ability to throw over the middle of the field. Now, Simpson's a little bit more of the point guard game manager style versus Zach Wilson, who Michael LaFleur struggled with there with the Jets, so I think that's kind of the direction he wants to go. In the 3rd round, I gave the Steelers Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. Now, there's a family connection here. His father, Doug, was a quarterback coach for Mike McCarthy there in Dallas, so he's going to get the inside scoop. But Nussmeier, man, I ride the Nuss bus a little bit, right? That 24 film now, it's aggressive. He's pushing the ball down the field. 47% of his passes on 3rd down went for first downs. He does need to risk manage a little more, and that's why you go study under Aaron Rodgers. Such a great decision maker. Last but not least, I went for Cole Payton, the Bison. They got another one out of North Dakota State. Going to the Jets at pick 179. I really like him as a developmental guy. He's a lefty, doesn't have a great throwing motion, needs a ton of work, but he can be the next Taysom Hill. I know you've heard that before, but this one's real, right? In 2023, he was the backup quarterback, but he had 84 carries for 13 rushing touchdowns, right? He's got 6'3", 230 pounds. Like, he has the actual bulk, the size, that body type you need to be a short yardage runner. And so a great developmental quarterback, but he can also fill the Justin Fields role and run some of that read option, short yardage stuff you saw the Jets do last year.
Yeah, kind of a valuable player to have on your team. But, Bug, let's dig into that Cardinals trade for Ty Simpson a little more. How do you like that move by Arizona to get back into round 1 for a quarterback?
Well, I'm not so sure about them coming back into round 1. Everybody makes a big deal about getting into the back end of round 1 because of the 5th-year option. And here's what I would say. If you have to get to the 5th-year option, you're probably not sure of the quarterback, because most of the quarterbacks who get to after year 3, they're redoing their contract anyway and giving them an extension. So I don't know if the fifth-year option is as valuable. I do like the fact that Arizona is going after a quarterback. I just think for me, I would do it in round 2. Number one, it's a lot less risk averse. Number two, I just think that if they hitch their first-round pick to Ty Simpson this year, they may be buyer beware because of the 27 draft. And I know we don't know what the 27 draft is going to be like, but by all accounts, you look at all the draft pundits and you talk to all the scouts, the 27 draft could have 6 or 7 quarterbacks that have number 1 capability. Lennar Sellers, Arch Manning, Sam Levitt. I can go on and on down the list. Brandon Sorsby. It's so many quarterbacks that have the potential to be in the 27 draft. I think every team is going to line their ducks up to be attached to that draft. Yeah. I like Ty Simpson in the second round. I don't like him in the first round, Jeremy.
Yeah, Booger, that's a factor, the 27 draft. But when I ask teams around the league about Ty Simpson, Arizona comes up the most often. They're set up to take this swing. And let's be honest, their expectations are not going to be overly high this year. They can play a Jacoby Brissett or a Gardner Minshew this year. Ease Ty Simpson into action, because that's the biggest question is with just 1 year of production as a starter, is he ready now or does he need to sit? Most likely, teams feel like he needs to sit. Outside of Arizona, it's hard to find a home for Ty Simpson. He was implicated with the Rams a little bit. Teams like Talk to don't think they're going to take that shot. They maybe just go somewhere where they can get a key player to try to win a Super Bowl. So does he slip into round 2? And if you're Arizona, can you wait on that or do you have to jump up and go and get him? That will really depend on the calls they make over the next few weeks and the supply and the demand.
Yeah, the Sean McVay lesson going from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford was go for the tools, go for the traits, go for the live arm. That's not the Ty Simpson route. But the Kyle Shanahan lesson was when we tried for Trey Lance, that wasn't as successful. And then Brock Purdy comes in and saves us. Go the point guard, the game manager route. That's the Ty Simpson way. The fifth-year option is always tricky, right? You know, the Giants move up for Jackson Dart, but the Saints stay back for Tyler Shuck. How do you qualify? How do you not?
Yeah.
The thing about that fifth year is when those extensions get signed, they get tagged onto the end of that year. So it's just one more year of nice, healthy cap where you can spend all your money on free agents and sign big extensions before, bam, that $50 million, $60 million hammer hits, and all of a sudden you're in a different world of roster building. And so I still like the fifth-year option. Even if he's a great guy and you extend him, you still get that additional year.
And it is hard to project to 27, right?
Yeah.
Like all those names that Boog said, it sounds really good. Well, we thought a year ago that this draft was going to be a lot better at the quarterback position, too. All right, coming up, Malik Willis. What about him? What's he going to prove this season? He's looking to leave his mark as a first-year starter there in Miami. Dallas Renegades at noon, and then the Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Battlehawks. New on NFL Live, we have Jeremy here for all the latest. What's going on in the ATL?
Little offensive tackle mix-up here with the Falcons because Caleb McGarry, longtime right tackle, is retiring. His agent told me this week. And so 6 years in the league but was out of the game in 2025. So out is McGarry, but they're bringing in, according to our Adam Schefter, Jawan Taylor, who's with the Chiefs, released by the Chiefs after 2 seasons. Had some struggles with penalties, but this is a nice value deal. $5 million. Can get to 6 with incentives. So Atlanta covers itself here going into the draft. They don't have to stretch if they don't love an offensive tackle early on.
All right, and time to read and react with more news. Staying in Atlanta where voluntary workouts are underway. Running back Bijan Robinson spoke earlier today on the Falcons' soon-to-be quarterback competition. Take a listen.
You know, I think the competition will help them become great players in themselves. And those are 2 great dudes. Like I've already talked to Tua. Obviously, me and Mike, you know, we're bros already, but, you know, even Tua is coming in here with an open mind, trying to get better, asking questions already. And, you know, I think when they get the offense down and when they build that confidence, then it's our part, you know, me, Drake, Jahan, Kyle, Charlie, like all the guys to make sure that we're playmakers for them and to make them feel as comfortable as possible no matter what the situation is when it comes down to it.
Boog, who do you think's the best option there as QB1, Tua or Penix?
Well, I think right now it's going to be Tua, number one, because he's healthy. We don't know when Michael Penix and that knee is going to be healthy. And Tua kind of fits the offense a little better from a rhythm and timing standpoint. It's going to be a lot of play action when you bring in Kevin Stefanski. So I think right now, even if you look at it by no way of health, it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa that's going to start this season, and we'll see where they go from there.
Yeah, certainly at the start of the season. That's also the question in Vegas. Obviously, they've signed Kirk Cousins, who met with the media moments ago.
Yeah, I think you know, we all want to play. I think, but I made this clear to Clint that, you know, the best player needs to play. If that's not me, I don't want to be out there. I don't think that's the best thing for the team. If I am the best option, then I believe it's important that those guys are out there. But I'm excited to get the chance to lead and help influence in the locker room and do my part, do my role, and just most importantly help our team win.
Cousins, Mendoza, Ben, who should be QB1?
The first overall pick should be quarterback 1. I think when Kirk signed that 4-year, $180 million deal with the Falcons, and then they got a rookie, I think he was a little upset and didn't want to do the mentorship. It's a 1-year, $13 million deal now with the Raiders. So Mendoza's going to be QB1, and I think Kirk knows he's going to be QB2 moving forward.
All right, we'll see, though. If it's at the start of the season, the more experienced quarterback, they give Mendoza some time. Right. We'll see. All right, Dolphins kicked off voluntary workouts this week. One major piece is absent, as we got this news yesterday. The Dolphins' Devon Achane was not in attendance for the first day of Miami's offseason program, and head coach Jeff Hafley said it's all part of the business, and he's confident it is going to work out. Jeremy, what are you hearing?
This is a little nudge on the contract front. Achane is eligible for a new deal. He's a premier running back. He's also in a position to wait and let the market develop because Bijan Robinson could get a new deal. Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit could get a new contract to bring that market up. But from what I've been told, the Dolphins have pillars that they want to keep long-term under the new regime. Achane is one, linebacker Jordan Brooks is another, Aaron Brewer the center, and then Patrick Paul the left tackle. So Achane, I expect that they'll try to take care of here in the coming months.
Got to hang on to the talent that they have. That was not all from Hafley on Tuesday. He also spoke about his new quarterback, Malik Willis.
I mean, I had a great conversation with him yesterday. He came off. I said, don't change who you are. I said, don't put any extra pressure on yourself. You've earned the right to be here and have this opportunity, and you've done that by doing all the things the right way. Don't change that. Don't press. Just be you. And I want to make sure that he understands that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There's going to be mistakes made. But I want him to play with that confidence, and I want him to play the way he's always done it.
I mean, Bug, do you see Willis having success in Miami?
Yeah, it's going to be tough right now because the company's bear got in Miami. Like,
Exactly.
I think Malik Willis, when he's at Green Bay, showed us that when you put the requisite weapons around him, he can do a really good job. But I think me, Jeremy, and Ben have a better chance of playing receiver right now than the guys that they have. And right now, I can guarantee you, Ben will be a little slot receiver. We're going to throw the fade to Jeremy, and I'm going to be the guy that's going to be blocking as a blocking receiver. That's how much help Malik Willis needs down there. And so I truly understand he can be successful. I just don't know how many weapons there are to help him. And as Dan Orlovsky would always say, a quarterback is a dependent position. He's going to depend on other people. And right now, I don't know who he's dependent on.
And quicker than fast was my scouting report, Bug. That's what they wrote about me back when I came out back in the day. Listen, it's uncharted waters with Malik Willis. It really is. And we don't talk about this enough. This is a big second contract for a player with only 6 career starts. When you go and you look at early draft picks who didn't have a lot of starts and got a big deal at quarterback, you're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, which went pretty good for the Niners, Brock Osweiler, which was disastrous for the Texans, and then Kevin Cobb, went from the Eagles to the Cardinals. He's out of the league in a couple of years. That's pretty much it. We don't see this model of an early drafted guy who doesn't get opportunity but then gets the big money. So we don't know what we're looking at here from a developmental timeline. His next start is his 7th start. Like, we would not make a decision about a rookie quarterback on his 7th start. And so I'm worried that the early jump into conclusions about the contract is going to get in Willis's head. Like Hafley said, try not to put pressure on yourself, but start a 17-game season for a roster that rough. I just don't know what the runway is going to look like.
Unless Hafley knows something that we don't.
Well, what he knows is they love the high-end talent. He's got power in his legs. He can be probably the best runner in the NFL. That's what a couple coaches have told me. They believe that as a dual threat, he could be massive. But the question, to your point, is can he get to a full season? Like, can you run 60% of your offense even, because he just doesn't have that experience? They're going to have to try to answer that in real time. I have told behind the scenes he's been awesome and try to absorb everything with just really an amalgam of the offense that they're putting together between a West Coast system. They have Kevin Patullo there who worked with Jalen Hurts, who was a dual threat. So he's trying to put all that together. He's intrigued by it all, and he's working to get advanced here in a hurry.
But no Tyreek Hill, no Jalen Waddle. I do think the 3 of you analysts on the show have about as many touchdown catches as the guys on their roster do.
Yeah, I can run a 40 in less than 6.8 seconds. Or
wow.
No chance. There's zero chance you could break 7 into 40, Fowler.
I'll beat Tutu Atwell in a race if I start at the 36.
You know
and he starts the back end.
All right, still ahead. Off-season workouts are underway in Cleveland.